The year is 1935. A 9-year-old girl from Delhi, India, arrives in the town of Mathura, a place she has never been to in her life. She gets off the train, looks around, and immediately points out an older man in the crowd, calling him by name and identifying him as her husband's older brother. She then directs the horse-drawn carriage through the unfamiliar streets, giving turn-by-turn directions without hesitation, until she stops in front of a specific house and declares, "This was my home." The girl's name was Shanti Devi, and her story is perhaps the most compelling and thoroughly investigated case of reincarnation in modern history. Our story begins in Delhi, India in 1926, with the birth of a seemingly ordinary girl, Shanti Devi. For the first 4 years of her life, she was quiet, barely speaking at all. Then, she began to talk, and what she said terrified her parents. She insisted that her home was not in Delhi. Her real home, she claimed, was in a town called Mathura, over 140 kilometers away. She said her name was not Shanti, but Lugdi Bai. Her parents, disturbed, tried to dismiss it as a child's fantasy, but the details Shanti provided were relentless, specific, and unwavering. She described her husband, a merchant named Kedarnath. She described her house in vivid detail, down to the color of the walls and the location of a courtyard well. She spoke of the specific sweets she loved, and most chillingly, she recounted the traumatic details of her own death, claiming she had died in 1925, just 10 days after giving birth to her son. For years, her family tried to suppress the story, but Shanti's insistence never faded. A great uncle of the girl, thinking he could prove her wrong, decided to investigate. He wrote a letter to a merchant named Kedarnath in Mathura, asking if his wife had died in the manner Shanti described. To his utter shock, the reply came back, yes, a man named Kedarnath did live there, and his wife, Lugdi Bai, had indeed died in childbirth in 1925. Every detail matched. Terrified and intrigued, Kedarnath traveled to Delhi, bringing his 10-year-old son, the son Lugdi Bai had died giving birth to. To test Shanti, he was introduced not as her husband, but as his own older brother. Shanti Devi, now 9 years old, was not fooled for a second. She immediately flushed, lowered her eyes, and identified him as her husband. She then embraced the young boy, her son, and began to cry, stating that her soul recognized his. Later, alone with Kedarnath, she recounted intimate details of their married life, details only Lugdi Bai could have possibly known, from the food he liked to a specific time he had an accident. Kedarnath left the meeting pale and shaken, convinced that this young girl was in some impossible way the reincarnation of his dead wife. The story exploded. It was no longer a family secret, but a national sensation. It reached the ears of one of India's most respected figures, Mahatma Gandhi. Fascinated and wanting to find the truth, Gandhi personally commissioned a formal committee of 15 respected individuals, politicians, journalists, and academics to investigate the case and determine once and for all if Shanti Devi was telling the truth.
In November of 1935, the committee escorted Shanti Devi on the fateful train journey from Delhi to Mathura. This was the ultimate test. There would be no tricks, no outside help. The truth would be revealed. The moment they stepped off the train, the tests began. Shanti was immediately able to identify Lugdi Bai's older brother from a large crowd, despite never having seen a photograph of him. Placed in a horse-drawn carriage, she confidently guided the driver through the winding streets, correcting him when he took a wrong turn, pointing out landmarks that had changed in the 10 years since her death. She led them directly to a specific house in a narrow lane. It was, Kedarnath confirmed, the house where he and Lugdi Bai had lived. Inside, she immediately recognized and named dozens of relatives, speaking to them with a familiarity that stunned the onlookers. She spoke of private family matters and inside jokes. But the final and most chilling proof was yet to come. Shanti led the committee to a specific bedroom. She pointed to a corner of the floor where the plaster was loose and declared, "This is where I hid a pot of money for safekeeping before I died." The committee, hearts pounding, had the floorboards dug up. They found nothing. For a brief, tense moment, it seemed the entire story had collapsed. Shanti looked confused. Then, Kedarnath, with a pale face, confessed, after his wife Lugdi Bai had died, he had found the money she had hidden in that exact spot and had taken it. The committee had seen enough. They returned to Delhi and published their official report. They stated, in no uncertain terms, that they had found no evidence of fraud or trickery. The series of tests, the sheer volume of specific, verified memories, was beyond any rational explanation. While they did not officially endorse the concept of reincarnation, they presented the case of Shanti Devi as a completely genuine and inexplicable phenomenon. Shanti Devi lived a full and quiet life, never marrying, and remaining steadfast in her story until her death in 1987. Her case has been studied by researchers and skeptics for decades, and it remains the most well-documented, scientifically investigated case of its kind in modern history. It doesn't offer easy answers. It challenges our understanding of consciousness, of memory, of life and death itself. It is not a story of a ghost or a monster. It is a quiet, profound, and deeply unsettling mystery. A true story that suggests that sometimes, when a life is cut short, the story isn't quite over.